The Red Pill. The manosphere education of Sigma, lodged between the twin towers of Western intellect, was where I discovered the Red Pill. Little did I know it was in these grounds that I would also be receiving an education in the form of the Red Pill. I had escaped here from the capitulated economy of my American city. The manosphere, a loose conglomeration of men writing about their experiences on the internet sphere, were my professors. The cold northeastern environment was my lab. During this time the world was in an upheaval. The wealthy banksters had played their cards too far, resulting to the cannibalization of the working class. I was the smallest of the small. A fresh grad. My beta dream of being a salaried worker in a good American company with nice perks, the only dream I had up to this point, was shattered. The chaos of the market was what made me. Amidst countless applications and job scammers, I worked delivering boxes to pay my rent and had no heat during winter. America had no unemployment insurance for its newly born sons. It made me realize that the model of our fathers and a safe path to the middle class was no longer applicable. The current model was broken, and a new path lay before the men of my generation. The consumption of Red Pill wasn't a choice. It was the reflection of the negative world that I lived in at the time. It was the reflection of the world men like me lives in. It is a different shade, a hue, of seeing a different reality than what is in front of you. You must see the ugly to move on. Ignorance is bliss, but truth is what sets you free. I lived without money, without a career, without connection in a world where all those were paramount. Yet, I never stayed sulking. What differentiates a beta and a sigma is that the sigma are winners in a world that is set up for us to lose. The manosphere riders and doomsayers kept me company through all of it. Slowly, the material I was reading, the so-called Red Pill, started to change me. Layer upon layer, page after page, post after post, and many forums later, it would reveal to me what the Red Pill was. I will save you the trouble now. It for the most part is a message of hate. A hate for society, for biology, and hate for the institutions that represented my world. However, it is hate encapsulated in a message of love. The love for self. The need for your preservation by comprehending and understanding the taboo forces that rule our world. It was the 40th law, the rules of seduction, the social hacks. The Fight Club. You're not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You're not the car you drive. You're not the contents of your wallet. You're not your fucking khakis. It was only through the consumption of the Red Pill that I had the audacity to leave my corporate existence and the wine tastings of the superficial world. It was a seed planted in my head, a beta destruction cancer, the sigma malignant tumor, that kept growing and growing until I knew I had to redefine a path for myself. I entered my sigma period. The Tao of Taboo. Sigma theory. See things as they are. Focus intently on what is happening in your environment. If you are unsatisfied, then change your environment. In your weakness you find strength. In many ways, the Red Pill is a large conglomeration of taboo topics. It is outside the realm of the acceptable. It is a darker view of reality that delves into the behavior of people. The first exposure I had was that of gender inequality, the growing feminist threat. However, what I really took note of was how women actually derived their sexual decision based on the concept of the SMV. Sexual market value. In the sexual market, a man is defined by the amount of sexual value he has. Tied into the sexual market value was taboo topic of race. Nobody wants to talk about it, but make no mistake about it. It is there, a shadow backed by the institutions of the current world. That how others perceive you is function of your outward appearance inclusive of your skin tone. It became apparent not only in dating but also in the work professional life. Reader must know that I have no hate towards anyone. I see things as they are and it affected me and I did something about it. There are winners and losers in society. By acknowledging you are in the losing side is not the same as being a loser. If you were born ugly, a beauty-centric society will be cruel to you. If you were born with the wrong complexion, then you will have to put up with it. A personal quirk like introversion does damage in an extroverted society. One slight deviation makes you an outcast, unless you conform to the societal pressure of the perception. Images are the mental modes on which we are pigeonholed to. I didn't want to put up with it. It occupied a space in my mind. I wanted to free this space. Now I turned this space into a void. It is filled with other things now. I am happier without it. It also made me realize that I was holding a valuable hand, so I played it. Everything counts. Understanding these forces and compensating with game and hustle leads to success. There is also another factor, the twin hand of racism, a much overarching theme that covers most men of modern day. It is the taboo topic of classism. The alpha class. Sigma theory. To partake in the system is to contribute to continuation of the alpha class and systems that have been put to protect their investments. It is a rat race because for every unit of work you put in, the more you are increasing the gap between them and you. The alpha class are these guys who sit on top of the pyramid of society. They have access to capital and have formed exclusion of their world to the rest of us. Everyone outside the gates of their walled fortress is not part of this alpha class. They have banded together to control and make it exceedingly hard for you to make it by virtue of concentrating the capital into their hands. You will know if you are part of this class or not. With each subsequent generation, the alpha class will go higher and higher, and you and your sons will find it harder and harder to escape the suck of the bottom. This is occurring on a global scale. It is the nature of power. It concentrates to the top. Everything is controlled by them, including you. They own the equity that controls your movements and your thoughts. You are a circuit chip powered by the energy of their currency. What is a Sigma shock? Sigma shocks are naturally occurring pattern disrupting events that occur to change the natural energy of men. With a wage-slave model, the beta workers are blissfully working in their environment, unaware a Sigma shock is coming. In the physical world, an example is that of a market shift. In our example, the Sigma shock loses his income and thus disrupts the wage drone's lifestyle. Naturally, the beta will hone in for another income source. The Sigma shock is only successful if the beta's own then realizes that his income-deriving activities is actually a riskier proposition. The best thing that could happen for beta is if the Sigma shocks occur during his young adult life and changes its trajectory. The problem I had with working for the alpha class as a corporate rat was that every time I produce for them, they in essence will take more out of the profit my work unit has created. We are essentially production units pooled to create an accessible resource to maintain the income operations of the alpha class. Since the split will always be in their favor, they could withstand Sigma shocks by just letting you go. My friend, the barrier of entry is too high, and you will not make it. The only option you have in this world is choosing between two builds. 1. Prepare for Sigma shock. Professional build. You will work on a technical discipline and stash as much capital as possible, hopefully before the coming of Sigma shock. Slowly you will build your freedom. 2. Create the Sigma shock. The renegade pirate. You will create your own Sigma shock to the system by abstaining from the system and risking it all for a venture of your own. In either builds, you will find that each path will change you. The first path might mold your character into the subservient type. You will be more disciplined. Everything in fact will be a direct function of your ability to take orders. The trouble is you will most likely succumb to the comfortable lifestyle and only wake up when Sigma shock hits you. It is going to come, make no mistake about it, but will you be prepared to repeat the cycle? The second build, the path of Sigma, requires that you are able to navigate the world of street hustle. It is in essence creating your own institution to back you. The payoffs are uncertain. However, you will develop the mentality of a hustler, and you will find it increasingly difficult to come back. The trouble is that you might not make it. I advocate the path of Sigma. The worst that could happen is you will forage for food. If you had not invested much of your ego to how others perceive you, this option would be the best of all. People do it every day. They talk to themselves, they see themselves as they'd like to be. They don't have the courage you have to just run with it. If you're a guy in, say, IT, and you get $80K a year, you can get a middle-class existence in the USA. But for how long? And how much of your life are you willing to give up attaining your middle-class lifestyle? The ego builds on itself. Remember that. The path builds the ego. Soon you will find yourself buying and identifying with things you do not need. You identify with the material world. You search for your identity in the material. The great American tragedy of consumerism. Then a Sigma shock disrupts your life, lose job or get into an unforeseen financial tragedy. Then despair. Are you really an engineer? A project manager? A systems analyst? Is that the extent of your soul? Is that passion, or is it merely the need for income masked as a strong interest? The system will sort it out. Fill up A, fill up B, proceed to C cattle. The enlightenment is accepting that you are not part of them. You are not alpha. If you're not part of the insider that gets all the dividends, then what you are is a drone. There is peace in knowing you are not alpha. You will work for them, no question about that. The question that is left is for how long? Will you enrich the owners of equity so that their sons can lord over your sons? Or will you leave and find a better deal for you and the rest of your kin? It is risk that you will have to take. The path is everything. A Sigma windfall. Sigma theory. The alpha requires a considerable and increasing payment for every period you stay within his borders. But outside, the payment required of you is considerably less, thus expanding your wealth and increasing your success. With the rise of the alpha class in the developed nations, with the price of admission increasingly becoming more exclusive, the resort is to go Sigma. I do not claim that there is no other way, but this is something I've observed taken by those who wanted to forge their own paths and make their own institutions. The manosphere is littered by the same people who had started their own operations. They are freedom personified. What does it mean to turn Sigma? It means that you are not having it. It is an act of rebellion. There is a large amount of males in the USA and developed nations that are not happy with current standing and the socio-economic structure of their environment. To chug along is beta. To see yourself suddenly 40 years old locked in a specialized position, the golden handcuff, typical, average, and then wondering what you could have done. Being Sigma means taking actions. These actions are often drastic, like expatriation, like starting a business. The Sigma assumes tremendous risk by following a less conventional path. He alone will know the mindfuck that is of nonconformity. The ambiguous nature of life so that he finds his own path without being told what to do and when to do it. The beta is the guy who is satisfied. In a way, the life of a beta is easy. Under the protection of the alpha, he gets his income, his woman, and his bits of pleasure in exchange to his conformity to the rule of the alpha. However, this is not the Sigma. The Sigma energy needs to find a way to manifest itself. Turning Sigma is not for everybody. The path is littered with anxious moments and what will happen to me moments. But in the end, turning Sigma means freedom, that you tried to be different, that you fought. Through my study of the manosphere, I had come across a method that has been used widely and proved usable. It is called the location arbitrage. Now, it may seem like a buzzword, a 4-hour quackery, but its effects are as true at an economics point of view. Consider that in some environments outside the USA are rising at different rates. Due to the pyramidal structure of concentration of wealth, your wealth could easily double when applied elsewhere. A Sigma in the USA could partake in the economy of the systems of another world, effectively leveraging his assets. You find an environment that is conducive to your success. In concrete terms, you go to a place with low cost. With low cost, you suddenly become wealthier. Then with this new wealth, you can build on a venture that is otherwise unavailable to you. You are essentially hacking the system. If I gave you $10,000 to use to start your operation, then ask that you will not derive any income outside of this amount. A Sigma windfall. What would you do with it? If you wake up at a different time, in a different place, could you wake up as a different person? Increasingly, a lot of men are opting to use this option to get their things in order. They start something while maintaining cost. They invested in business with higher yields that would not have been available in their countries. In other nations, they can survive longer, giving them the advantage. Men have done this for centuries. It is nothing new. The self-made location-independent types are the new Sigma. Whatever happens, they will still be able to derive their income from wherever part of the world they are in. There are many ways of making an income. I know a guy who buys condominiums across the globe in developing markets. He is jumping from one place to the next and buying up property. His type is not that uncommon, actually. I know plenty more guys who are overseas making money by offering a platform for people to congregate. They have other products for sale as well. These are supported by the infrastructure of nodes we call the web. The web is a resource, is a gift for men of our age. We must use all of it to help ourselves. The independent types have basically beaten the odds by using the cost economics outside the borders, used the web, and made great brands for themselves. I am sure reader knows more of these types. The path of Sigma. Sigma theory. We are the summation of all the paths that we have entered in life. The path will remake you, remold you, and become you. The path will eventually consume you. It is not the destination but the journey. The path that you take is in the end of itself. What is this path of the Sigma? Sometimes we get too concerned of the goals and our aspirations that we don't see what is right in front of us. What is in front of you is the path. The path. The path is what makes you. Let me explain. If this Sigma took the corporate slave path, he will eventually become a corporate slave. He will think, act, speak, and breathe the life of a corporate slave. He will build the temperament of a corporate slave. He will become risk-averse. He will get into the Metro Man lifestyle. He will be a high consumer. 80% of his attention will be put in the service of his master. The path will own him, for this is the nature of this path. The path is what makes you. The only choice that you will ever have is to choose your path. I took the renegade path. This is how far it has taken me. The person who entered the path, the young man who has consumed the red pill, is not the same person writing this book. The path has molded me and remade me. My former path was becoming narrower and narrower, and I could calculate what I would be. That was how safe it was. But because I forced myself to take a path, I was able to change the trajectory of my life. I entered the unknown. I had to adapt to this path. My path was simple. Leave for a better hunting grounds for a chance to make it. Slowly my path started to change me. Here is how my path had changed me. I started to ask myself, why do I need all this stuff? All my stuff will only slow me down. So I downsized quickly. I had to liquidate my material possessions save for this laptop. My cosmopolitan wardrobe was the first to go. I started to lose many of my interests. The mental masturbation of the internet was one of the first things to go. I started to spend more time on things that were more of use to me. I hung out in places that were immediately useful. Addictions had to go because I could no longer support it. Drinking is expensive because I have to be sharp the next day. There are no weekends in this path. I had to learn to reconfigure my assets. I had to understand and learn the management of my own money. I learned to invest in developing economies and navigate their systems. I had to learn to network with men of value. I became health-oriented out of necessity. Workouts are needed to keep my body strong, so I may not fall into sickness. Gyms had to go because most were expensive. I had to learn how to work out from home. My food choices became a matter of survival. My propensity to take risks increased. I had to take risks, I had to explore. I used to cower in the thought of risk, but now risking is my only way to get through. You learn to calculate risk quickly. The path forces you to take risks. How far will you go in the unknown? I learned the value of humility. The ego of the winning alpha. The path of the Sigma will teach you there is no such thing. Carrying an arrogant attitude gets you nowhere. There are no perfect traits, there are only useful traits. Any false ego gets you nowhere. Women started to become more of a distraction. Ironically, the more they became a distraction, the more one becomes wanted and pursued. Self-motivation. If I do not self-motivate, I get lost, then I die. Even this blog was a way for me to self-talk myself. Everything is now done for survival. Positive thinking is not a choice, it is a must. I had to learn many different skills. How to negotiate, how to accurately price an item based on local markets, how to find the cheapest and most efficient routes of action, etc. These hodos I had to learn because I needed it. Without the path I would not have really valued them. I now have a skill set that would rival my former boss. Was it all calculated? Some were, but the majority wasn't. What is most important is to realize is the path that you take makes you. It is that powerful. It will test you. It will mold you into what you need to become. No fear. No distractions. The ability to let that which does not matter truly slide. The most important was that the Sigma path took away the alpha ego. Humility was hammered to me because I have been humbled by how hard it is to exist in this path. There is literally nothing aside from trying to make it. Locking oneself to a certain school of thought is suicide. The question for me now is for how long I can stay on this path. Honestly, I don't think I can ever go back to work for someone else or live in a traditional sense. This is a tall order who has only wanted to bait a dream of cashing in on a much-needed specialization in the economy of the first world. Almost everything that I do now is made by this path. It is all-consuming. This is the path. The lifestyle dictates me, and not I it. It is a sink-or-swim decision. If you find yourself in a boat gaining water, you'd be surprised how many of the items you carry lose appeal. You suddenly know what is important. So how does it relate to you? Most are probably stuck in the 9-to-5 jobs. I was there too. A mental gulag for the soul. If you stay there, then you will eventually become a 9-to-5-er. The longer you stay, the harder it will become. The system is stronger than you think it will own you. My advice. Get out. Turn Sigma. See how far the path lies. If you do not have an ego, what is the worst that could happen? The soup kitchen. Been there. Hitting bottom is a weekend retreat. It's not a seminar. Stop trying to control everything and just let go. What is the Sigma period? Sigma theory. Sigma period is a transition period. It is when you work on your dreams. You leverage yourself to the hilt to get you the best odds of success on your mission. It means having no income. It means eating shit for a period. 50 Cent did this, Steve Jobs, and countless men that men often read about. They drop out of society to work on their dreams. Modern society is set up so that you start from the bottom and you make your way up. On the way you get indoctrinated in school, then you realize that you need to find a job. So you find a job, then you meet someone, then you get a house. You get mortgage and then you lock yourself up a certain lifestyle. But what if there was another way for you to not get on this track? What if instead of being a battery pack to support the economy, you become your own economy? Men are in many ways able to create the future that they want for themselves. Society wants something for you, but you can create whatever it is that you want. All you need is a dream. People do it every day. They talk to themselves, they see themselves as they'd like to be. They don't have the courage you have to just run with it. This is where the act of turning Sigma is all about. You are shunning what society wants from you and instead creating something for yourself. In process of doing so, you ultimately give back to society. It gets you from being a producer and into a creator. You will live the lifestyle of self-ownership and live the truest expression of your life. The Sigma period is to head down the lonely path. The great unknown. There are no guides for this, just your own inner navigation system. You will make it only if you believe in yourself. But how can you achieve this? Look at success stories. Many men enter a Sigma period. It is the spirit of Sigma that forged the alpha inside of them. These men know how to think like sharks because they had to. They have little need for a plasma TV to get the best name brand to impress women in high-end bars. These men do not rely on institutions and corporations to feed them. They have become their very own institution and corporations due to the virtue of their path. When will you learn to enter Sigma period? When you are sick of working for the alpha in your office work environment. When you need change. When you read the works of many and you start to emulate what it is that they did, trying to distill a principle that would stick. Sometimes you are forced to become Sigma when you lose your job and you realize that every empire builder sat where you have sat. Risk and chaos. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Marcus Aurelius. Our modern-day Fight Club. Independence. Sigma theory. The mission is independence. Why do you enter the Sigma period anyway? Answer. To complete your mission. The Sigma spirit does not do very well in enclosed work environments. He needs to be free. He needs to feel alive in the world. However, independence is tricky to acquire. This is because it involves taking risks. Risk is the price of the unknown. Unknown is the price of mediocrity to superlative. This means that you will need to put your comfort on the line sometime. You can prepare as much as you can, but you eventually have to jump. Do not prepare much. The unknown cannot be mitigated. All you need is a healthy heart, your basic necessities, and your goal of freedom. I imagine my readers as office workers. I was there too. Reading the same manosphere blogs with a finger on the Alt tab. But you know what? I left that world. I left it unprepared, but prepared as I can be. I am now in an adventure across the globe. I have only my savings, my youth, and my wits when I left for overseas. But this was calculated. Overseas my costs are cheap. This allows me to start projects. I am doing things that I love and helping other people along the way. I own everything I do. Even this blog is something I've always wanted to do. And I will tell you now that independence is your great mission. The sooner you realize this, the faster your self-actualization will come. So how do you gain your independence? By prioritizing it and giving your frightfully clever brain of yours this ultimate mission. Spend time and attention on this mission every day. Treat it as a proper subject instead of a passing fancy. Understand the subject and develop your plan. Spend time in forums that involve this lifestyle, instead of intellectual masturbations of the manosphere. Use your time wisely. The most important aspect achieving independence is that you must step into the path towards it. This path has no guarantees, but you will not know if you do not try. Once you step into the path, you will notice that the path will be changing you. This is the universe conspiring to help you, but you must start stepping into this path before internal changes could happen. If you live in the Western democracy, what is the worst that could happen? Soup kitchen. The housing authority. Your friend's couch. How bad do you want independence? Or how much do you hate being a monkey with a tie? If you want it bad enough, then give this mission your priority. Not girls, not your BBJ class, not anything else. Make your mission a testament of your life. Do not be afraid. The art of taking risks. Sigma theory. Your life and accomplishments is a function of your willingness of taking risks. The ability of taking risks is directly tied to the ego that you carry. You are subconsciously defined by the ego that you carry. Think of your ego as all that is around you. Your environment and your place around it. Your job, your leather computer chair, your Echo shoes, that bar, and the people you hang out with. These are things that define that person that carries that ego of you. Anything beyond this space is an outside domain that is only reached through a passage paid by the price of risk. Think of taking risk as an expansion of your ego. Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken. Truth is, your identity turns you into a risk-averse being. Every risk you take destroys or creates a new you. Taking risk is tied with failure, and there are things like destroying your identity, your name, and how people see you. Imagine a circle. Put everything inside of this circle. This circle represents you. But most importantly, this circle is what society has pigeonholed you to. In any democracy, you have the option of leaving the circle. If there is a goal or target that is outside the realm of your environment, then you will have to take a gamble to obtain it. This Sigma is also a seasoned pure, a pickup player as remnant of his days of learning the arts of game and seduction. How do you get a girl? This girl lies outside of your circle. You want her. You are not sure if you will get her. What do? You take a risk. Approach her and see if she responds well. Then you steer the interactions until you get what you want. The most important thing is that you take the initiative to take the risk. You minimize the downside by reading about game and seeing what other people had done before. Not carrying an ego eliminates the rejection downside. Then when you get her, then she becomes part of your circle. Your circle expands. Then suppose you want your independence. You want it, but your circle doesn't include it. You might be stuck at a 9 to 5. What do? It's the same as approaching a girl. You have to take an action, and it requires the price of risk. You minimize the downside by learning and practicing your craft. Then you make the jump. Every single entrepreneur has done this. Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, musicians, artists dropped out, tuned out to focus on their operation, thus minimizing their downside. Anything great that you want is outside of your circle. The price that you pay to obtain is in risk. However, the older you get, the more risk-averse you become. This is because your ego is tied with an increasing comfort to your identity. This Sigma found it difficult to liquidate his former life. He became attached to it. But looking back, he took the road less traveled, took the risk, and earned the dividend. What about failure? Failure is kryptonite to the ego. Yet failure is the duality of risk. Neither of it can exist without the other. I feel the fear of failure. Everybody does. However, you must master this fear, lock it up in a cellar, so that its cries will only spur you on. A Sigma advantage. Because my ego is small, I do not require much. I live a modest life even overseas. I do not pay for gym. I seldom frequent clubs. I choose companionship wisely. Truth is, I have no problems returning to the USA, working in the local Walmart to re-up on cash. I see poverty around me here, and Walmart looks more of a luxury from their perspective. To an extreme, I do not even fear that I will forage for food if I need to. I don't think it will get to that point, but I am sure I can survive that environment where Musashi became strong. However, I have an ultimate fear. I will share this with you. I fear a life in which I did not take risks. I am scared of being locked in an office job, balding and counting days to my next vacation. I fear my nice Japanese import cars and my new quantum computer in my game room. I fear weekends watching Netflix on the next award-winning TV series while I munch on gourmet protein beef. I fear shaving off my dead facial skin cells with my ultrasonic Braun Razor 5000 looking up to my face, knowing that I could have been. I fear this. Some people would love it. I fear it. My fear was all contained in the circle of my former life. I knew that my circle was becoming more and more defined. I had to get out. The only way out of my circle was to take a risk. Would you be taking a risk? The first 5 steps to the unknown. Do this exercise. Step into a new building, a new store, a new park, a new locale, wherever you haven't been to before. But take 5 slow steps. Put your attention to these steps and into your surroundings. You will notice that for every step you take, you are molding your consciousness into a new environment. Those first 5 steps grafts you to your new environment. The path is those 5 steps. Then you are there. Since the path will be unique for everyone, I can only talk to you in these terms. My first 5 steps in my path were as follows. First step is observation. If you are in the rat race, observe how one day blends to the other while your dreams fade away. Observe how marketing is affecting your decisions. Look how you are buying things to acquire an image of a man that was constructed for you. Realize that the longer that you stay in the system, the more likely that it eats you. A nice fat paycheck every Friday guarantees you a life that is average. If you want a white picket fence and Netflix on the weekends, then this might not be for you. Second is preparation. You must prepare for the Sigma period. Prepare only the basics. Your health, your wealth, and your willingness. The Sigma period is a lean period. There is no sparkling water and sparkling jewelry worn by scantily clad ladies all beckoning for your attention. No, the Sigma period is boots and mittens and overalls. It is a period of work. Hard work that is not paid. You have to train your mind and body before you enter this period. Start with quitting your addictions. Third is doing. By putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation so you can grow from it. Put yourself out there now instead of waiting for a Sigma shock. This means taking a risk. This means not delaying and taking a jump. This means quitting your corporate job and the paycheck lifestyle. It means giving up your false alpha ego, finding a location with low costs, and finding even more ways to cut your costs. When you are about survival, you will perish if you do not adapt. You will learn the true value of things. You will learn the values that really make an alpha. You will soon value budgeting your time, creating a budget, having a plan, saying a million no's. All the things that you were told to do now you will have to do. You rid excess weight. It forces you. It is the Sigma spirit training you. 4 is understanding. The Sigma period is understanding that it is a high-risk situation and that your tolerance for failure will be tested. It is an entrepreneurial move and things might not pay off. No pain, no gain. If you put yourself in a situation where you are forced to grow, then you will grow. The worst thing in life really is that you might have to forage for food or get into a soup kitchen. If that is what it takes, then so be it. 50 said he doesn't fear anything because he had already lost his mom, so he understood that he doesn't have much more to lose. 5th is consistency. Keep taking steps forward. Steve Jobs said that only people who are in love with something are the only ones likely to succeed because they are the crazy ones not to give up. The Sigma men out there thus prove their mettle by rising to the challenge, staying true to themselves, taking the risk from the ventures, and doing this for a sustained period of time. You are not an employee, you are your own man, so be consistent with that belief. That belief that you own yourself gets you into going Sigma and will carry you through it. The reason I wrote the above is that I am in this period of Sigma. I talk the talk. I have no boss and will do everything in my power to keep it that way. The period is changing me, morphing me from the inside, and unleashing all that is good within me. Would I recommend this for every man? Absolutely. Everyone should at least once in their life give going Sigma a shot, give info to the man, and establish their own way. It means shying away from the economic machine to run their own economy. Let him be Tyler's voice. It's only after we've lost everything that we are free to do anything. The Sigma's Book of 5 Rings. Started this blog at work in 5th and market in a small tax return shop in the middle of a crack-ridden neighborhood in a decaying historical American city. It was middle of recession. I was a fresh graduate, had no money and only a temporary seasonal job. It was a way for me to first write about developing game or my ability to mac on girls. Through time, as I devoured countless literature from manosphere bloggers and forums, I stumbled across the concept of the Sigma male. I felt an affinity to the Sigma spirit, so I wrote a piece on it. Sigma males. If alphas are the top of the hierarchical world, then Sigmas are masters of the underworld. Black, red, and a tinge of white are the colors that marks their banner. They are masters of the dark arts. They are not like the alpha, bright, shiny, good-looking, but instead possess a handsome vibe similar to the wolf. There is always something mysterious about them, a tinge of sorrow, a tinge of humanity. At their core lies an alpha soul. However, this alpha has been transmuted by the Sigma's usually darker and less than vibrant past. Their lives had not been rosy cookie cutter, but rather it had taught them morbid lessons and a sense of distrust. But do not mistake the Sigmas as negative thinking introspective sulkers, for they are not. They just operate in a way congruent with Mother Nature, closer to ground where the creatures lay. Sigma is a gamer. He knows game. A Sigma often realizes that his play will always be different, that the card he was dealt needs a master hand to play it. He turns his weakness, his never-belongingness, and enhances his deck to make plays that alphas cannot play, that betas are too lazy to execute, and that the deltas never think of. He is master of the dark arts. His power attracts at the base level. A lot has happened to me from writing that article. I got into corporate life, worked on my health, learned about game, and decided to finally leave the USA for a life overseas. Through the process, I learned that instead of turning alpha, I was realizing the Sigma path. I have always been interested in my alpha male development. I developed my mind, body, and spirit, but it was my expatriation that became the last piece of the puzzle. You see, I was never part of the mainstream. I was an immigrant kid who always viewed American society from the fishbowl angle. I am a Sigma survivor. I am well educated with a white-collared job in one of those multinational monoliths, a mine gulag factory. The American dream for most. However, I was not content. I wanted a place where I belonged, and America was not it. I never felt fully alpha in the USA. I felt that because of society and its dynamics, I was relegated to become a Sigma and alpha without a social boost. My work life was soul-crushing, to say the least. The Sigma Project was a way for me to recount some of my personal development on my way to Sigmahood. I had worked on my personal development for years, and it had finally allowed me to live the life I truly wanted. I have distilled my wisdom into 5 rings. The 5 rings that I talk about here are the rings of development. Here it is. 1. Health. 2. Spirituality. 3. Love. 4. Wealth. 5. Community. These rings are all intertwined. For example, the act of getting rich entails the development of the spirit. If the spirit is not strong, then wealth will not come. If your health is not good, then you will lose out on love, which is another avenue for community. I got the idea from Miyamoto Musashi, who was the best swordsman samurai in Japanese history. Legend has it that Musashi lived in a forest to train his Sigma period and emerged as the most lethal samurai killer the world has known. In many ways, men will have a time where they enter their own forest, alone in deep introspection, to fix themselves as to emerge as a lethal force of masculine energy. Let us start first with spirituality. Spirituality. What is spirituality in the eyes of the West? We have been accustomed to scientific things that we have become godless beings in search of pure truth and logic. Yet, for all that is observable, there is something that cannot be observed. The spirit of Sigma, for example. In US society, many men will find their solace in the house of God. Yet, what is most important is what Muhammad Ali said, "I am the best and the richest because my kingdom is in heaven." This means that a man's spirit is how he views himself in regards to things that are eternal. The challenges that were presented to you are all a blessing, as it will give you a problem to overcome. All the development that we read about online is but a result of our need to develop our spirit. We are poor because the spirit is poor. We are unhealthy because our spirit is weak. This spirit resides in all men and becomes a foundation of the pillars of achievement. First, understand that you do indeed have a spirit, and that your spirit is a reflection of who you are in the world. You have to believe. The Sigma spirit in me wants to help, and that is why I am writing this. How do you find your Sigma spirit? If you feel that you are Sigma, then you will find your spirit. In battle. The spirit of Sigma is that of the battle warrior. Every challenge that is won and failed will result to the strengthening of the spirit. Life is full of these mini challenges that eventually lead to a final challenge before you can proceed to the next level. My battle started with quitting an addiction. Here's my post. After a Sigma male had been exposed to the devils of society, he must claw his way out of the hole, as to start his journey towards manhood. Induction to Sigmahood is tested by the successful slaying of a personal demon. The Sigma's baptism of fire is marked by overcoming a vice. This demon is anything that feeds on the life force, and that which takes away masculine energy. This is easily an addiction. The battle against vice gives 2 gifts. 1. Understanding of the devil gains an insider edge, and 2. Removing a weakness develops strength. One by one, a Sigma man should work removing vices towards purifying himself. He must treat his body like a church where demons are not welcome. Through his battles he understands the nature of manhood. He sees that the devil's worker resides in all men. He becomes aware who among his circle are real men. He respects those who are not tempted and sees those who are easily lured into a trap. He sees those who are survivors. He avoids men who are unable to fight their inner demons. He only identifies with other Sigmas who are survivors. They roam together watching their fallen brothers spiral. quick to use their brother's weaknesses to strengthen their positions. In his battle to overcome a demon, he acknowledges his own weaknesses. He had been breached, yet he is thankful. He understands that from his weaknesses he develops his strength. His strength comes from defeating his weakness. Again, the Sigma strength comes from defeating weaknesses. The inner strength is self-mastery. This is true masculine energy. The Sigma is replete with this energy force. He sees the weakness in other men and uses it against them. I had an addiction and realized that it was making me weak and that it was not helping me in my goals. Everyone has a battle to fight. To me, it became the catalyst to getting the best health possible, acquiring wealth, learning about game, and then finally finding an environment where my vibe resonated most. These challenges could be in anything. Think of a problem that you have at the moment. This problem usually stems in weakness. You must strive to eradicate this weakness. The path to developing your Sigma spirit is to fight all these within yourself. Like Musashi, the true battle lies within yourself in your own forest. It doesn't matter if you fail or you win, just the act of battle gets you closer to realizing your true nature. What is most important is that you keep trying. These battles of yours could be similar to mine. It could be learning how to handle women, making it in the corporate world, getting your businesses off the ground, getting accepted and respected in society. All these battles strengthen and forge the spirit of Sigma. Key point. Realize that you have a spirit. The Sigma spirit is found through battle. Love. The reason I created this site was to get love. As a young man, I wanted to get girls. However, I had many things working against me, but I eventually cracked the code. What I had found was that love is the most powerful force in all the rings. Through love everything becomes possible. It is through love or passion that men have done the impossible. It is for love that we embark on self-development quest. I have many stories to tell about gaming the opposite sex. As a Sigma male on the move, you will inevitably attract women. It is in our nature. We look for information that helps us and treat seduction game as a proper subject. We are great at analyzing the love dynamics, and we are lethal in our execution. But that is not the love that I talk about now. Leave that to a pure. Men should only love one thing: their mission. Think of Thomas Edison. It was his love to innovate that propelled him to try 6,000 different varieties of material for his light bulb. Think of Steve Jobs and Richard Branson. Steve Jobs created a remarkable product, and Richard Branson expanded his Virgin Empire to conquer the stars with Virgin Galactic. These are men who attract females for simply loving their mission. Do not make it your mission to bang girls. I made this mistake. Instead, work on your mission and watch the females get attracted to you. If you don't have a mission, then I have one for you. The Sigma mission is to attain his freedom. The masculine energy is always looking for freedom. The Sigma needs to be independent. Put your brain into use and think of ways to achieve your independence. Takeaway. Love is powerful force. Love your mission. What is your mission? Freedom. Health. I fear not a man with 1,000 strikes, but a man who has practiced one strike 1,000 times. Think of health in terms of banking. Always have a deposit in the bank. Every single day. My personal health philosophy is to not rely on gyms. I work out at home. My body is all I need to grow. This works to my advantage, especially living overseas. I admit I am not the best health resource, but there are many out there. However, I caution that you must never underestimate your mental health. What the mind thinks, so the body becomes. The mind needs protection. People claim that Zen meditation works. I personally practice information diet. I do not watch TV. I try to absorb information only when it is useful to me. I also noticed that if you live in a toxic place, it might be affecting your mind. My former environment was surely affecting my mind. After leaving, I feel my mind fog had cleared. Takeaway. Health is a function of all the rings. These are all interconnected: love, wealth, community, spirit. All these rings you must work on to achieve health. Wealth. The pirate. Wealth is the hardest ring to achieve. There are several ways to earn your keep in this world. Think of your working life as living in a boat, and there are two roles that you could play. First is that you become a subordinate to the captain. The captain is the alpha of the crew and you toil under his leadership. The captain owns the vision and the direction. It is not yours. Under his leadership, you will get a fair wage, maybe a beautiful girl, and a nice house in the middle of the suburbs. When the captain sails, it is towards his advancement, but you will get part of the treasure. Or you can become a pirate. The life of piracy is that of the renegade. You will start small. Your boat will be very small, but it will be fast. Your missions start with survival navigation of the cold black waters of the Ocean of Desolates. It is a mental game. In these waters you will learn about the nature of fending for yourself. You will risk it all to survive. The pirate life is shunning the life of a crew deck and manning your own vessel. This is metaphorical for running your own business. When you run your own operation, you sail where you want to sail and complete missions that appeal to you. You fight your own battles and you keep what you plunder. The ultimate treasure lies in collecting the Ring of Wealth, which according to my understanding, has a definition given by your journey to collect it. This is the hardest ring to collect. You will trade the life of comfort and certainty for risk and adventure. However, if you put yourself in the seas to fend for yourself, your instincts activates and you will become a pirate whether you like it or not. Takeaway. Live life as pirate, manning your own ship and commandeer your destiny. Community. This is the most personal to me. Like I said, I was a minority in a land where things are stacked against my community. I could retreat to my enclave, but I was an alpha. I needed to get out. I noticed a preferential treatment. I knew I needed as much odds to succeed. I could not live life as a second-class citizen. I needed, a supportive community. My philosophy is that the way of the Sigma is the path of least resistance. You must put yourself towards the current and not against it. In the US society, I faced many forces working against me. Racism and classism. Tons of competition. High prices. These might seem trivial issues to some, but it impacted me. I didn't have to be that way, so I left. Why would I enrich a nation that is hostile to my success? The world is large and I am capable of finding myself a new environment. I left. I am now a shark in a land where there are few sharks. However, America, in all its nastiness, has blessed me with all the challenges it gave me. It has forged me to become a stronger version of myself. So that when I arrived in my new territory I was already a battle-hardened soldier. Takeaway. Community is one that helps you achieve all that you can be. If you find yourself in an environment that is hostile to you, then find another territory. This was my final Sigma transformation. Summation pounds. Spirituality, love, wealth, health, community. Spirituality. Sigma spirituality. There is no alpha. Sigma theory. Alpha is a spiritual concept, and death is the ultimate arbiter on man. What does it mean to be alpha? Does it mean to have big muscles, nice pearly teeth, and a mean domineering disposition? Is the guy who is good with girls? The guy who is the top of the pyramid chain? The guy with lots of money? I think that the alpha is whatever you want the alpha to be. In fact, I think there really is no alpha. The Sigma thinks that everyone is alpha, yet no one is alpha. Everyone is the same and everyone is different. We can drown ourselves in the masturbation of what constitutes alpha, but at the end of the day, an alpha is only what you make an alpha to be, so nobody on this plane of existence can pass the judgment. Death is the only one who decides on who is alpha. The alpha male is a spiritual concept. Death is the ultimate arbiter of manhood. In our deathbeds we lay in the court of the spiritual. It will happen no matter who you are. It will happen. We are forced to enter the greatest path of the unknown possible. Death is the coming shock with no recovery. Everything up to this point is just training. What have we done with life that was given to us? This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time. Did you journey towards your inner alpha? Did you journey and realize that being alpha is not attainable but still headed towards it? Did you step into the unknown? You define how death will pass your judgment on you, much like how you define what is an alpha man. Do not be influenced by me in the affairs of the eternal. All I know is that it does not care if you believe in the spiritual, it will claim you no matter what your beliefs are. These are how I want to be judged, based on my inner alpha. That we tried to become the best that was given. That we give form to the abilities that were instilled in us. That we did not cower in fear but instead took the risk, took our time to prove ourselves, and come out still not alpha. While we are odds at defining the alpha life, I think we can define the spiritual concept of the beta. The beta spirit lies in all of us. Our inner beta. The beta spirit manifests as the man who cowers in the fear of death. The beta cowered in the face of the unknown because fearing is what he has done in his life. The beta is the guy who cannot pay the price of the unknown. For his life can be calculated like an annuity, while the currency is through volatility. The beta is the guy who instead of standing up, sat down and took it. He is the sad man. He is the man who has eaten the forbidden fruit but did not plant the seed. He is a red pill man living a blue pill life. He has succumbed to reading about life than actually living in it. He controls the unknown instead of stepping towards it. He cares not for the value of his life and the golden opportunity to fail. He is quick to buy the dictates of others. His mission is 1.3 kids in a house locked in an economical mortgage, safe, secure, and beta. Fuck that. I who took the less traveled path can say that I will die a better death than if I were to follow my inner beta. That I am sure of. Vices and the Sigma warrior spirit. Sigma theory. The devil is your lifelong opponent and ally. Induction to Sigmahood is tested by the successful slaying of a personal demon. The Sigma's baptism of fire is marked by overcoming a vice. This demon is anything that feeds on the life force and that which takes away masculine energy. Always try fighting a weakness over and over and over until you have reached the strongest version of yourself. The development of man will come as a gift of the devil. What is the devil? The devil is what is rooted in you before you've known its existence. Addiction is the most concrete form of the devil. The stronger the addiction, the stronger the devil, the harder the fight. Do you have an addiction? Of course you have. We all do. Addiction is what we do that destroys us, but we still do it anyways. This is the start of the Sigma battle. What is your addiction? This could be a substance, but this is increasingly psychological. A deep malice that plagues you. It is inner battle that must be fought. The inner battle will take from you more than any battle that exists outside. You must partake in this battle. To conquer this battle inside is to lord over the dominion of the external. The battle against vice gives two gifts. 1. Understanding of the devil gains an insider edge, and 2. Removing a weakness develops strength. One by one a man should work removing vices towards purifying himself. He must treat his body like a church and the mind as an inner chamber where demons are not welcome. When you are in grips of a force that is beyond your control, then you see it for what it is. A malevolent force. Identify an addiction that is hurting you. Battle it. Observe the nature of this. Learn from it. If you have succumbed to it, surely others have. Was it greed? Fear? Anger? What fed the devil? If it is that, then you can use it to feed on others. For example, do you see someone who is fearful? Antagonize him. Someone who is greedy. Profit from him. Someone who is quick to anger. Poke his ego to control his response. Only knowledge of these is derived from the internal. When a man fights to overcome his personal demon, he acknowledges his own weaknesses. He had been breached, yet he is thankful. He understands that from his weaknesses he develops his strength. His strength comes from defeating his weakness. Again, the Sigma strength comes from defeating weaknesses. The inner strength is self-mastery. This is true masculine energy. The Sigma is replete with this energy force, and in the process of defeating a personal battle, what one will encounter is humility. Zero ergo sum. Sigma theory. The alpha ego is predicated on the idea that it is better. It is special. For the alpha ego to think it is better, it has to be given definitions. This input comes from ideas of alphaness in his society. This is easily corrupted by marketers for the purposes of profit and control. The alpha ego is bought in the materialistic West, traded like stock on a volatile day and sold like papaya soap shavings in the local mall's body shop. Say for example, smartphones. The idea marketed to the Goyim beta masses is that alphas are symbol of wealth and prosperity. To be alpha, a self-actualized male, means to purchase the phone as a symbol of alphaness. Never mind that it has good features, that is a secondary function. To not possess this smartphone aka bitch phone is beta. It is weakness. Weakness financially is how people read it. This is the message sent to the beta class by their alpha rulers. It is beta not to support the current economic paradigm. Surely you are alpha and have money to an iPhone, right? Then the requirements to upkeep the ego starts to snowball. Things such as what professions, who you hang with, where you go, are now restricted to the definition of what is alpha. Because you are alpha and this is the type of careers alphas choose. The programming produces egos that say the following. I rep Crimson, I make this and that, and my profession is this and that, look at me. I have the cyan with boost controller. It is a never-ending permutation of what one has that the others do not. This constant raising of what is, as suggested by the social engineers of the alpha class, standard in a person. Then there's the Sigma. The Sigma starts as a beta male. Betas can only be Sigma, who thinks he is an alpha male. The Sigma realizes that he has bought the false alpha ego. He introspects deeply and makes an observation. The alpha's ego is predicated on the idea that it is better. Thus, the anti-alpha's ego is humility. It is kryptonite to alphaness. The humility is what sets the inner Sigma free. This is the power weapon. Without the need for a socially construed ego, a man is free to choose how to express himself in the best way possible. He is presented by infinite more options that are available to the alpha. This is why Sigmas are often seen at the fringes. However, this power weapon comes at a price. It is easy to go up but hard to come down. It is easy to feel and identify with an alpha ego, but gloriously hard to rebel against it. It is not easy. Especially after years of programming. You will lose yourself. Not many are meant to challenge the alpha roost and turn Sigma. A man first learned to deprogram oneself through a series of knowledge building. This is the red pill. Then a man must derive his value internally, as opposed to externally. To suddenly take the bus after driving a Lexus with gold rims is hard. To be the person who shuns materialism in a materialistic society is hard. To present oneself as a poorer than one actually is hard. To mac on girls only relying on your personality and knowledge of game is hard. To leave a cushy office job for a slim chance to own your destiny is hard. Deflating the ego is the hardest thing a Western man can do. However, he must remove the ego if he wants to be free. He must not derive any value from the worthless. He must fix his values. Maybe this is what the West needs. A reassessment of values. Maybe Sigmas are going to lead the recalibration of the West, but I digress. Once there is nothing to ridicule, once shame is stared at in the face, then what is left is absolute power of freedom. It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Psychology of the Sun. I wrote the below piece before I left for my Sigma period. My hope is that it serves as an inspiration to anyone out there to make the leap. When leaving, there is a psychology barrier to overcome. There is nothing like immigrating abroad, uprooting yourself from your country, away from your comfort zone, and the things that you've come to like. It becomes a daunting challenge, not for the faint of mind. The mind will second guess itself and there is doubt. The doubt can be paralyzing. We often cling to the known as comfort, knowing with certainty what could occur and what actions could mitigate them. In my experience, it has become like Bujiman that trails my thought process even here as I pack my bags and ready myself for an adventure. I've tried to stay busy, but that eventual move is still around the corner. It is truly what I want, to leave the USA. But my mind calculates that maybe it may not be the perfect time, that it wasn't rational. To it, I say fuck it, we only lead one life. And here is where the psychology kicks in. And mine goes like this. You see, me, you, and everything that you can see in this world was made from the sun. Yes, the flipping sun. We are stardust, plain and simple. Created from cosmic forces to live and die in the duration of our time. We are going to die. Make no mistake about it. We have a limited time on this plane of existence before we become whatever we really are. You, me, and the cheeseburger is nothing but a blimp to the forces that shape the universe. What is dissatisfaction and pain when we consider the collapsing of a god and an anti-god at the end? Chew on that. And no, I am not on drugs. These are rational thoughts from a sane mind. Might not be the most practical mind, but it is sane. So here we are, in a crossroads of a massive life move. Life is too short, and I am not helping no fucking CERN type cause to advance the human race. From the looks of it, I will be leading a pretty mediocre life filled with CNN and girls, and CNN and girls, and the eventual and listening and watching but never doing. At least when I type, it becomes a memory of me and other beings like you, the entity reading this, and hopefully I'd give 1 in 10,000 some type of inspiration to do whatever he really wants. Or if he doesn't know what he wants, to go out there